Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, today we are starting new chapter, chapter 19, the perfection of spiritual knowledge. So, Krishna told Uddhavji about Varnashram Dharma, and now the new chapter starts. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yo Vidya Shruta Sampanna Atmavan Nanumanika Maya Matramidam Gyatva Jnanam Cha Mai Sanyasi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, a self-realized person who has cultivated scriptural knowledge up to the point of enlightenment and who is free from impersonal speculation, understanding the material universe to be simply illusion, should surrender unto me both that knowledge and the means by which he achieved it. So, a self-realized person who has cultivated scriptural knowledge up to the point of enlightenment and who is free from impersonal speculation. So, no impersonal speculation. He doesn't want any Mayavadis there. Understanding the material universe to be simply illusion should surrender unto me. So, unto me, not to unto some impersonal Nirakar, Nirvishesh, this or that. Maya Matramidam Gyatva indicates knowledge that the eternal spirit soul and the eternal personality of Godhead are completely separate from the temporary qualities of the material world. The word Vidya Shruta Sampanna means that one should cultivate Vedic knowledge for the purpose of enlightenment and not to make a show of mysticism, intellectually or impersonal speculation. Having neutralized the illusory effects of Maya, one should then transfer one's attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrendering the process of philosophical negation to the Lord Himself. Srila Jiva Goswami gives the example that when there is a danger, the king may issue weapons to private citizens, but after military victory, the individual citizens return the weapons to the king. So the weapons that they're returning is the knowledge itself. Of course, one cannot return the knowledge, but use that knowledge in the service of the God. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this point of this verse as follows. Somehow or other, the living entity has to free himself from material illusion, which has covered him since time immemorial. Cultivating desirelessness and renunciation by practice of the mystic yoga system, the living entity develops knowledge of illusion and may thus lift himself above the reach of material ignorance. However, once one is situated on the transcendental platform, both knowledge of illusion and the process of acquiring such knowledge have no further practical application. So the example is given that a man may be haunted by the ghost of a snake or tiger. As long as a man is possessed and thinks, I'm snake or I'm tiger, attempts will be made to counteract the ghostly influence by application of jewels, mantras, and herbs. But when the man is freed from possession by ghosts, he again thinks, I'm Mr. So and son of Mr. So and returns to his original nature. At that time, the jewels, mantras, and herbs have no further immediate application. So, this is how knowledge works to take us away from illusion and to make us surrender unto the Lord. So when one is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, there is naturally little interest in the innumerable details of illusion, and gradually one is transferred to the spiritual world. So he gave all the knowledge or lots of knowledge in the previous chapters. So now he's saying, what's the use of all this? After one is out of illusion and have surrendered, just don't need that knowledge. Jnaninastva aham eveshta swartho hetuscha sammata swargaschaiva pavargascha Nanyortho madrite priyaha. For learned, self-realized philosophers, I am the only object of worship, the desired goal of life, the means for achieving that goal, and the settled conclusion of all knowledge. Indeed, because I am the cause of their happiness and the freedom from unhappiness. Such learned souls have no effective purpose or dear object in life except me. Then they cannot think of anything else except Krishna. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna stated that one should ultimately surrender unto him that knowledge by which the material world is seen as illusion. Material attachments are certainly problems for the living entities since they're diseases of the spirit soul. One who has contracted a skin disease that causes terrible itching gains only flickering relief by scratching the unbearable source. If he does not scratch, he suffers greatly. But by scratching, even though there is an instantaneous sensation of pleasure, unbearable misery follows as the itching increases. So, real happiness is not found in scratching one's skin infections, but rather in becoming free from such disease. So, conditioned souls are harassed by many illusory desires, and in desperation, they try to gratify their senses through the hopeless scratching process of illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. They further try to gain relief through material society, friendship, and love. But the result is unbearable suffering. Real happiness is to eliminate completely the itching disease of material desire. Since material desire is a disease of the soul, one must acquire knowledge to treat this disease and eliminate it. Such therapeutic knowledge is essential as long as one is diseased. But when one is fully healthy, such technical medical knowledge is no longer interested to the healthy person and he may leave such knowledge to the doctors. So nicely explained. So material illusion, yes, it is big problem for us because we are attached. But once we are on the right path and once we get okay, self-realized soul, we don't need the knowledge of illusion or Maya. Of course, that knowledge is important as long as there is some chance of falling back into Maya. But other than that, we don't need that knowledge. Similarly, in the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one need not think continually of one's personal problems, but may rather think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, with love and devotion. Lord Krishna advises in the previous verse that one should eliminate one's personal problems through technical knowledge of illusion. After giving up constant meditation on such problems, one can then become a lover of God. Lord Krishna certainly guides each and every sincere devotee internally within the heart and externally through the bona fide spiritual master. In this way, Lord Krishna gradually trains his sincere devotees to give up their irrational attachment to dead matter. So once freedom has been achieved, a devotee begins to seriously cultivate his relationship with Lord Krishna in the spiritual sky, because that is more important. ज्ञान विज्ञान संसिद्धा पदम श्रेष्ठम विदुर मम ज्ञानी प्रियतम अतो मे ज्ञाने नासो विवर्तिमा. Those who have achieved complete perfection through philosophical and realized knowledge recognize my lotus feet to be the supreme transcendental object. Thus, the learned transcendentalist is most dear to me, and by his perfect knowledge, he maintains me in happiness. The words Padam Shreshtam Viduramama, they recognize my lotus feet to be supreme, certainly eliminate the impersonal philosophers from the category of Samsiddha or completely perfect philosophers. Lord Krishna here refers to such transcendental scholars as four Kumaras, Sukdev Goswami, Shivyasadev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and others, and Prabhupada, it says. So, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, of these, the wise one who is in full knowledge and union with me through pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to me and he is very dear to me. So jnana refers to an authorized philosophical and analytic perception of reality. And when such knowledge is clearly realized through the sanctification of consciousness, the resultant comprehensive experience is called Vijnana. Speculative impersonal knowledge does not actually purify the heart of the living entity, but rather merges him ever deeper into forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as a father is always proud of his son's education, similarly, Lord Krishna is very happy to see the living entities acquiring a sound spiritual education and thus making progress on the way back home, back to Godhead. So that way, knowledge is important, but it just takes us to a certain aspect only, a certain stage only. Tapastirtham japodhanam pavitrani tarani cha nalam kurvanti tam siddhim ya jnana kalaya krita. That perfection which is produced by a small fraction of spiritual knowledge cannot be duplicated by performing austerities, visiting holy places, chanting silent prayers, giving in charity, or engaging in other pious activities. So jnana here refers to a clear understanding of the Lord's supreme dominion over all that be, and this realized knowledge is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That the Lord is supreme is confirmed in the previous verse by the words Padam Shreshtam Mituramam. One may perform penances or visit holy places with a proud mentality or material motivation. Similarly, one may chant prayers to God, give charity, or perform other externally pious activities with many bizarre, hypocritical, or even demoniac motivations. But the realized knowledge of the supremacy of Lord Krishna, however, is a solid connection with the spiritual world. And if one pursues this holy understanding, one is gradually promoted to the highest level of conscious existence called Vaikuntha, or the kingdom of God. So that way, with the knowledge, when one surrenders, then he has achieved the topmost destination. Tasmad jnanena sahitam gyatva swa atma anu swatmanam uddhava jnana vijnana sampanno bhaj mam bhakti bhavataha. Therefore, my dear Uddhav, through knowledge you should understand your actual self. Then advancing by clear realization of Vedic knowledge, you should worship me in the mood of loving devotion. The words Vijnana indicates realized knowledge of one's original spiritual form. Every living entity has an eternal spiritual form which lies dormant unless one arouses one's original Krishna consciousness. Without knowledge of one's own spiritual personality, it's not possible to cultivate love of the Supreme Personality, Lord Krishna. Therefore, the words Gyatva, Swata, Manam are significant here, indicating that every living entity can realize his full potential as an individual person only in the kingdom of God. See here, it says every living entity has an eternal spiritual form which lies dormant until one arouses one's original Krishna consciousness. So every soul has its eternal spiritual form, eternal, sanatana. It cannot be changed. The only thing that changes is first the size of the soul becomes smaller, 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair, and the consciousness, it just gets covered over by different material consciousness. We start thinking, I'm man, I'm woman, and I'm dog, and I'm hog, and I'm whatever. But the original, eternal, spiritual form remains dormant, remains there. So bhakti removes that consciousness. First, it removes that covering of material consciousness. And then it arouses, means it is dormant, whatever love for Krishna is there with the original eternal spiritual form. It's there. So bhakti just brings it forth. It depends upon how sincerely we are performing bhakti. So that's how fast we make progress. ज्ञान विज्ञान यज्ञेन मामेष्टमात्मानमात्मनि सर्वयज्ञपतिं मां वै संसिद्धिं munyogaman. Formerly great sages, through the sacrifice of Vedic knowledge and spiritual enlightenment, worshipped me within themselves, knowing me to be the supreme Lord of all sacrifice and the supersoul in everyone's heart. Thus, coming to me, these sages achieved the supreme perfection. Tvayuddhava shrayati yastri vidho vikaram mayandara patati nadya pavarga yorayat janmadayo asya yadamitam tasya kim syur adi antayor yad satovasti tadeva madhye. My dear Uddhav, the material body and mind, composed of the three modes of material nature, attach themselves to you, but they are actually illusion, since they appear only at the present, having no original or ultimate existence. How is it possible? Therefore, that the various stages of the body, namely birth, growth, reproduction, maintenance, dwindling, and death, can have any relation to your eternal self. These phases relate only to the material body, which previously did not exist and ultimately will not exist. The body exists merely at the present moment. So that's why it is illusory. It attaches themselves to you. The example is given that a man walking in the forest may see a rope but consider it to be a snake. Such perception is Maya or illusion. Although the rope actually exists and a snake also exists in another place. But considering that rope is a snake, that is Maya. So illusion thus refers to the false identification of one object with another. The material body exists briefly and then disappears. In the past, the body did not exist, and in the future, it will not exist. It enjoys a flickering momentary existence in so called present time. If we falsely identify ourselves as a material body or mind, we are creating an illusion. But this is what we do. One who identifies himself as American, Russian, Chinese, Mexican, black or white, man or woman, communist or capitalist, and so on, accepting such designations as his permanent identity is certainly in deep illusion. He can be compared to a sleeping man who sees himself acting in a different body while dreaming. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna told Uddhav that spiritual knowledge is the means of achieving the highest perfection. And now the Lord is explicitly describing such knowledge. So this body that we have, it's made of 5 elements only, but the body that we have right now, it did not exist before, and it will not exist after either. Because even in the present lifetime, we have changed the bodies. We are always changing the bodies. And if we go biologically, the cells are always changing. Old cells are dying and new cells are forming up. And in this lifetime also, when we were babies and then we got little older, young boys, teenagers, those bodies are gone. Where are those bodies? They're gone. And the body we have now, obviously, it's changing. Every moment it's changing. And after a few years, this body will be gone. We'll have very, very old, wrinkly body, whatever we have. But we get so attached to this body, which is nothing but illusion. So next verse, Uddhavji will start asking questions. So I guess we'll take it up tomorrow. So we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna.
प्रभु जी, I got this query yesterday when I was doing the parikrama. So I saw the people were doing the dandot in the parikrama mark. So, but somehow I was just realizing that why that route they have chosen to get closer to the God, or why we are not doing that. मतलब वो ही क्यों कर रहे हैं और हम क्यों नहीं कर रहे, या हमें ऐसा क्या ज्ञान नहीं है जो उनके पास ज्ञान है और वो कर रहे हैं, या उनके कुछ ऐसे कर्मा है जिनको वो अभी इस रूप में वो मतलब उनके जो बुरे कर्मा है उनको वो कम करने के लिए ये कर रहे हैं। मतलब मैं बड़ा सोचता रहा कि उसमें बच्चे भी थे, उसमें लेडीज भी थी, उसमें बुजुर्ग भी थे, उसमें मतलब मैंने सभी एज ग्रुप के लोग देखे उसमें, और वो परिवार समेत कर रहे हैं। मतलब वो मतलब दे आर डूइंग लाइक अ फुल फैमिली इज डूइंग दैट। तो मुझे यही लगा कि पता नहीं ये या तो प्रभु की कुछ लीला जो है वो हमारे पे आशीर्वाद नहीं है, या हमें इस इतना समर्थ नहीं दिया कि हम इस तरफ सोच
नहीं,
सकें।
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। ऑफ कोर्स ये काफी ऑस्टेरिटी है, इतना इजी नहीं है दंडवत परिक्रमा करना।
यस यस।
और तो पर ये भी नहीं है कि वो करके ही भगवान मिलेंगे। भाई ठीक है, वो जो कर रहे हैं अच्छा, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा गलत कर रहे हैं।
यस।
ये भी नहीं है कि वो ऐसे ही भगवान मिलने वाले हैं। कर सकते हैं जब गिरिराज जी से प्रार्थना करिए कि हम भी करना चाहते हैं, तो गिरिराज जी अलाउ करेंगे जब भी करना होगा।
हाँ, बिकॉज मैंने वही मैं मतलब जितने भी परिवारों को मैंने देखा उसमें बहुत सारे तो ऐसे भी लगे मुझे कि जो पूरे समर्थवान है, उन प्रभु ने सब कुछ दिया हुआ है उनको, मतलब ऐसी कोई चीज की
वो
कमी
वो
नहीं है।
वो वो कमी
तो
वमी की वजह से नहीं करते हैं, वो उनकी इच्छा
हाँ।
होती है। वो इसलिए
हाँ
नहीं
तो
कि
वही।
गरीब है इसलिए कर रहे हैं, तो
हाँ और
जो
फिर
गरीब है वही करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है।
हाँ, और फिर किसी ने ये भी कहा कि भी इन्होंने कुछ सूखा हुआ होगा, जो इनकी मनोकामना पूरी हुई तो इन्होंने दंडोत मांगा होगा कि जब ये पूरा हो जाएगा तो हम दंडोत करके आएंगे। तो ऐसा भी मानना था कि यस, इसलिए भी किया जाता है।
वो भी पॉसिबल है, बट वो भी जरूरी नहीं कि भाई उसी वजह से। कई बाबा जी तो करते हैं, बस करते हैं, उनको अच्छा लगता है। गिरिराज जी की भाई जितनी भी ऑस्टेरिटी कर रहे हो तो करो ना, उसमें क्या है? उसमें वो नहीं कि कोई लॉजिक चाहिए, कोई रीजन चाहिए।
ओके।
नहीं नहीं, अगर आपकी इच्छा है गिरिराज जी से प्रार्थना करो कि मेरी इच्छा है, तो लेट्स सी।
यस। हरे कृष्ण।
ओके, हरे कृष्ण।
हरे
चलिए,
कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
यस माता, हरे कृष्ण।
कैसे हैं आप?
बस ठीक ठाक, आप कैसे?
मैं ठीक हूँ। कोई शॉर्टकट ऐसा नहीं है कि जिसको हम ये रोज अपनी बॉडी को ही सजाते रहते हैं, उसके बारे में ही सोचते रहते हैं। तो उसका ये जब आपने बताया कि धीरे 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 हम खत्म होते जा रहे हैं, ये बॉडी भी एक दिन खत्म हो जाएगी, तो कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ जादू का चीज जो हमको ये बताए कि नहीं ये तो जाने वाला है, अब आप उस पे कंसंट्रेट मत करो, आप भगवान
बहुत
पे कंसंट्रेट करो। कुछ ऐसा
बहुत
नहीं है
बढ़िया।
शॉर्टकट?
वो भगवान पे जब कंसंट्रेशन होगा तो अपने आप दूसरी तरफ से हट जाएगा।
नहीं वो तो ठीक है, मतलब कोई कोई तो होगा, कोई जादू कर छड़ी होगी कुछ।
जादू की छड़ी एक ही है, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, और कोई नहीं है।
अब ठंड है आजकल, बस उसी के पीछे कौन से कपड़े अपने आप को कवर करे, कितने कपड़े डाले, मोजे कितने डाले, हीटर के पीछे बैठ गए, तो ये
वो
सब
तो
कुछ नहीं।
वो तो चाहिए ना, वे
नहीं
उसके
वो
बिना
तो
तो फिर
चाहिए,
बॉडी भी कैसे
क्योंकि
चलेगी?
उसमें कितना वेस्ट टाइम होता है ना हमारा, कपड़े इतने सारे इकट्ठे करो, फिर क्या करें हम? इतनी सामर्थ्य भी नहीं है शरीर में कि हम उसके बगैर भी चलो एक कपड़े में गुजारा करें।
तो
ऐसा
ठीक है,
कुछ
कोई नहीं,
बताइए।
आप जो भी करो वो चैंटिंग करते रहो और ज्यादा बढ़ा दो।
अच्छा, ठीक है।
तो बस वही है, और क्या, और कोई तरीका नहीं है, रास्ता ही नहीं है।
नहीं, मैंने सोचा आप तो इतने सालों से ही ज्ञान सबको बांट रहे हैं, तो कुछ तो होगा जब
मैंने
हमको
खुद ही
नहीं
नहीं
मालूम।
पकड़ा अभी तक,
हाँ जी।
मैंने खुद ही नहीं लिया इसको, मैं तो बस बोल देता हूँ, फॉलो थोड़ी कर पा रहा हूँ।
इसलिए हम आशीर्वाद तो दे सकते हैं ना, छोटे होने पे भी।
मेरे को तो आशीर्वाद चाहिए।
नहीं, वो तो मैं देती हूँ एज अ मदर, बट आई नीड समथिंग। मैं ना बड़ी दुखी हो गई हूँ कि ये सब कुछ क्यों इतना लालच कर रहे हैं अपने बॉडी के साथ में। हम उठ के चले जाते कहीं, अब मंदिर में इतने सारी एक्टिविटीज हो रही है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो रहा है, तो उसमें पाबंदी है, नहीं जाना वहां पे, नहीं जाना, कि जाते भी हैं तो नहीं होता है, लेते नहीं है। कई लोग तो मानते भी नहीं है। कई लोग कहते हैं कि आप मुझको प्रूव करके दिखाओ कि भगवान ने ही बोली है ये वाणी, तब थोड़ा सा मन दुखी हो जाता है। आप मुझे प्रूव करके दिखाओ, तभी हम बुक लेंगे आपसे, जब आप बताओगे कि कृष्णा ने ही ये बोली है गीता। अब उनको हम क्या
नहीं,
बताएं?
उसको बोल, तेरे भगवान खुद नीचे उतर के बोलेंगे तब ले लेना।
वो याद आता ना
क्या
जब
कर रहे हैं ऐसे
आपके,
लोग, तो बहुत सुनेंगे।
आपकी गाइडेंस में जब करते थे हम डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, तब कितने फटाफट फटाफट हो जाता था। तो ऐसा कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, इसलिए मैं बोल रही थी कोई जादू की छड़ी वहीं से भेज दो अमेरिका से, तो हम कर ले कुछ।
ऐसी मेरे पास होती तो क्या बात है।
चलिए प्रभु जी, कोई बात नहीं, मैं तो ऐसे अज्ञानी रूप में बोल रही हूँ।
नहीं 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 नहीं, आप कहाँ ज्ञानी होता। चलो ठीक है माता।
चलो,
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे
हरे
कृष्ण।
कृष्ण। जय श्री
हरे कृष्णा, जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.